parsha is Parshas Pinchos, Tavshin Pei Hey. And the beginning of this week's parsha is the culmination or the end of the story from the end of last week's parsha. And it's worthwhile to go back to the end of last week's parsha and talk about the whole episode that the beginning of this week's parsha revolves around and gain some insight into it. So what we have in the end of last week's parsha, which is Perek Chavhei, chapter 25, starting from Pasuk Aleph, verse 1, the Jewish men are beginning to straying after the Moabite women. The Moabite women are not only acting, being illicit with them, but also convincing them to become worshippers of the idol Pa'ar. And they do so. And because of that, Moshe tells the judges of the Jewish people that we have to go about and we have to punish. We have to actually perform capital punishment of those who worship the idol of Pa'ar. So if we take a look at Pasuk Hey, this is the end of last week's parasha, Perek Chavhei, chapter 25, Pasuk Hey, verse 5. Vayomer Moshe al Sheftei Yisrael. Moshe said to the judges of Israel, "Here go Ish an Ashav and Ismadil Baal Pa'ar. Each man shall kill his people, or the people he has judged, who have become attached to the idol of Baal Pa'ar." Now, V'hinei, Ish B'nei Yisrael ba. Behold, a man from the Jewish people came, Vayakre v'lachavas HaMidyanis, and he brought to his brethren the Midianite women, Le'enei Moshe, in front of Moshe, Ule'enei kol hadas b'nei Yisrael, and in front of the entire assembly of the Jewish people. And they were crying at the opening of the Ohel Moed. Now, we don't know who this man is, but there's a man that it says, a man who brought a Midianite woman in front of Moshe and in front of the assembly, and this caused Moshe and the others to cry at the opening of the Mishkan where this was taking place. Now, all it says is he took the Midianite woman. What was he doing with her? What was the story there? Just as he took her. However, as we know, what he did was, this man, who will be introduced to who he was and who the woman was in this week's parsha, but the man was very publicly telling Moshe and the Jewish people and his brethren, who we'll see that's referring to, that he is going to cohabit with this woman. Meaning whatever the Jewish men were stumbling in when it came to the Moabite women, he was saying very openly and very clearly that he will be cohabiting with this Midianite woman. Now, because of that, Pasuk Zayin, verse 7, Vayar Pinchos ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, Pinchos the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron the high priest, saw, Vayakam mitoich ha'ed, that he arose from amongst the assembly, Vayikach roimach biyadoi, and he took a spear in his hand. Vayavoy achar ish Yisrael akuba. He followed the Israelite man into the tent. Vayitkar es sheneyem, and he speared both of them. Eis ish Yisrael, the Jewish man, Vesar Isha, and the woman el kavasa, into her stomach. Vatiyatzam gave Rabbanei Yisrael, and the plague stopped from ravaging the Jewish people. Meaning, at this point of time, what was happening here was there was a plague amongst the Jewish people, and again, there was also this punishment that was taking place that was happening to those who had worshipped the idol of Pa'ar. There was a lot going on. But now that Pinchas actually killed this man and woman, he killed them because this Jewish man was cohabiting with the non-Jewish woman, which he was allowed to do under those circumstances. And that is what stopped the plague. And then last week, Parsha ends, and those who died in this plague, Arba ve'esrim Aleph, 24,000. Now, so that's what we have here. That's the end of last week's Parsha. Pinchas kills the Jewish man and the Midianite woman who were cohabiting. This was a situation of what's called Kanoin Pagan Boy, a zealous person, a person who is truly zealous for the honor of Hashem, had a right to kill this man and woman, and that's what he did. And because of that, the plague stopped. So now our parsha continues. This is Pasuk Yud, Verse 10, Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe lemar, and Hashem said to Moshe, saying, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, Pinchas, son of Elazar, son of Aaron the high priest, Heishivas Chamasim al b'nei Yisrael. He turned back my anger from upon the Jewish people, Bekanoyas kanasi b'seicham, when he zealously avenged my vengeance among them. V'lo says b'nei Yisrael b'kinasi, I did not destroy the Jewish people in my anger. L'chein amar, therefore say, Hideni nois lo yasbrisi shalom, behold, I am giving him my covenant of peace. V'hois lo lazari achara bris kunas olam, it shall be from his children after him, a eternal covenant of kahuna, of the priesthood, because he avenged, because he acted zealously avenged for his God, Yisrael, and he atoned for the Jewish people. So in our parsha, it's very clear that Hashem rewarded Pinchas for what he did. Pinchas did the right thing. And now we were introduced to who were these people? Who was the man, who was the woman? This is Pasuk Yudala, verse 14. V'shem ish Yisrael hamukeh, the name of the Jewish man who was killed. Ashahukas HaMidyanis, who was killed with the Midianite woman. Zimri ben Salu, that was his name. Zimri, the son of Salu. Nasi beis of Lashimoni, which means who was the head of the peoples of a father's, who was leader of a father's house of Shimon, of the tribe of Shimon. Leader of a father's house of the tribe of Shimon means actually that he was the prince of the tribe of Shimon. Every tribe had its own prince, had its own specific leader. He was the leader of the tribe of Shimon. He was no small fry. He was he was no ordinary person. He was the prince of the tribe of Shimon. Actually, earlier in Bamidbar, when we are given the names of the princes, his name is different. His name is Shlumiel ben Suri Shaddai. But here he is called Zimri ben Salu. And the Talmud goes through why here the Torah gives him these names. The Torah does not give him these names to compliment him. But that was his name. That's who he was. V'shem Ma'isha Hamukah Hamidyanis, and the name of the Midianite woman that was killed, Kozbi Vas Tsur. Kozbi, the son of Tsur. Rosh Umay Space of Midyanhu, who was head of the peoples of a father's house in Midian. Midian, as we see from, I believe it's next week's parsha, there were like 5 kings in the country of Midian. And one of them was Tsur, which means that this woman was a princess. And nonetheless, as a princess, she was still willing, and they were still willing to let her go with this man to cohabit in a very brazen way, because it was all part of bringing down the Jewish people. Okay. So that's the story in a nutshell. But
it looks as if Pinchas did what he wanted.
Pinchas did what he felt was the right thing.
But nobody, he didn't know what Hashem.
No, he did know. We'll see soon. He did know. He acted based on what he was taught.
Okay.
Didn't just do it on his own. He acted on what he's taught. So it's a little bit of a long introduction here, but we need to review the story. Now, what I want to do now is I want to fill in a little bit more detail. There's more detail that can be found in the Gemara and the Talmud Sanhedrin, Pei Beis Amud Aleph, 82a and 82b. Some of this is brought down in Rashi, but there's a little bit, but there's some more background here. It's very interesting. So in last week's parsha where we started, it says, Vayomer Moshe Shofte Yisrael. Moshe told the judges of Israel that you need to carry out punishments for those who worship the idol. Halach Shiftei Shal Shimon Eitzel Zimri ben Salu. The tribe of Shimon went to Zimri ben Salu. They approached him. He was their leader. Amrulai, they said to him, Hein Daradin Nefashis. They're judging capital punishment. Vata Yoshev Shaisik, and you're sitting here and being silent? It's pretty clear the tribe of Shimon was having the biggest problem here. They seemed to be the ones who had been most involved with the Moabite women, most involved in getting involved in the idol worship, and it was going to be many of them that were going to die now because of these judgments. So the people, the rest of the tribe of Shimon, came over and said to, and others from the tribe of Shimon at least, came over to Zimri ben Salu, their prince, and said, people are getting killed. People are going to be killed by the judges, and you're just sitting here quietly. Now, it's very interesting. Like, well, I mean, they were carrying out the judgment that these people deserved. You're talking about people who worship Pa'ar. They deserved it, you know, and it's not like something wrong was going on here. But at the same time, it seems like the response was, but people are going to die. You got to do something about it. We as a tribe are going to lose so much. You got to do something about it. You're just sitting here being silent. You got to do something. What do you have to do? I don't know if they knew I don't know if they knew it. They had any idea, but they went to him and said, "You got to do something here." Were they correct in that? Hard to know, because of the fact that, again, this is Moshe Rabbeinu saying what the judges needed to do. The judges were carrying out the law, but they still had this reaction to the prince. You got to do something here. Okay, so after they approached Zimri, he did something. Ma'asa, the Talmud continues, what did he do? Amar v'kibeitz esrim v'arba elef miYisrael. He gathered together 24,000 people, 24,000 people from amongst the Jewish people. It's a lot of people. V'halach eitzel Kazbi, and he went to Kazbi. That means he went to Midian to get her. Omar lo, he said to her, Hishmeili, which means, listen to me, meaning he propositioned her. He said, come with me. Omra lo, she said to him, Bas melechani, I'm a princess. V'chein tziva li avi, my father commanded me, lo tishami el lagadol shebehem, do not agree to anybody other than the greatest of them. That means if Moshe Rabbeinu, if the leader of the Jewish people comes to you and says, come with me, let's act let's behave in a certain way, you can go with him. You got it, but you as a princess can only go with the greatest of them all. So Zimri wasn't stupid. Amalai said to her, look, Afu Nasi Shevanu, I'm the prince of a tribe. I'm not, as we say, I'm not chopped liver at all. I'm a prince of a tribe. Not only that, Shugada Mimenu. Zimri tried to argue with her that he's bigger than Moshe. Why? Shehu Sheni Lebeten, Vushlishi Lebeten. I come from the second son of Yaakov, and he comes from the third son. So that makes me greater. That was his argument to her. Took hold of her and brought her to Moshe. Okay, she was no innocent bystander here. Now, all right, so he brought her to Moshe. It says, right, last week's parsha, he brought her in front of Moshe. And this Rashi brings down. So now, Omar Loi, Zimri said to Moshe, Zu Asira Muteris, this Midianite woman that I have right here with me, that according to he was holding onto her hair, is she forbidden or permissible?
For what?
Marriage. Let's call it marriage. Okay? Is she forbidden or permissible? Okay. No. What would the answer be?
No.
No. Of course no, right? Can't marry a non-Jew. Now, Bimtaimar Asura, but then Zimri said to Moshe, but if you say she's forbidden, Bas Yisra mihi tiralach, who permitted you to marry the daughter of Yisro?
Okay. Good question.
No, it's not. No. You can't think of a good answer? You can't think of an obvious answer?
She was converted or what?
Moshe married her before the Torah was given.
But he probably knew law.
Excuse me?
But he probably know what is wrong, what is right.
Yeah, but at the same time, we know that if necessary, they did what they had to do. I mean, he married her. I mean, that's who he had to marry, right? And it was before the Torah was given. He, right, is trying to say, well, if you tell me I can't marry her, right? Who said you had a right to marry her? What do you mean? One was before the Torah, one was after the Torah. But that was his argument. This was his argument. That was his argument. He basically was saying, if you can marry a Midianite woman, you can live with a Midianite woman, I can do the same thing. Okay. The next thing, and it's very clear, was that this man was going to take the Midianite woman and he was going to have sexual relations with her right there and then. Doesn't mean necessarily right on the spot, But he made it very clear to everyone that he is taking her and he is having relations with her. That was very clear. There was no question about it. And which is why Pinchas went and killed him right there and then. Now, what happened was that so Moshe's crying, which means no one's doing anything. Everybody's frozen. And Pinchas looks at Moshe Rabbeinu and he says, don't forget, it was his uncle, right? It was his grandfather's brother. He says, didn't you teach us that if a person is a true zealot, a person who truly cares for the honor of the Jew of Hashem, that he would be such a person can kill Zimri for what he's doing now? Did you teach us that? Which means he's saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, like, what are you standing here for? But the Talmud says Moshe forgot this halacha. He forgot it. Hashem took it away from him. But Pinchas remembered it. And Moshe said to Pinchas, you remember this? It's your mitzvah. You do it. And that's when Pinchas, as the pasuk says, he took a spear in his hand. Okay? And the Torah says he followed Zimri into the tent and he killed them. And the Talmud talks about the miracles that took place when this happened. Now, it's interesting also to note, like imagine, so Zimri is in a tent doing his thing with this Midianite woman. He had 24,000 men with him, as it says, right? It means these were the people from the tribe of Shimon. They were standing there. They were protecting him. So Pinchas walks up with, so imagine, Pinchas walks up with a spear, yeah? How does he get through? So the Talmud says he took the point off the spear, hid it under his garment, and was kind of like leaning on the wooden part like a walking stick. And when he came to the tribe of Shimon, the ones that were surrounding, he said to them basically, where do we find the tribe of Levi is greater than the tribe of Shimon? Meaning, if you guys can do this, why can't we? He was basically trying to say, I want to do this too. That's what he was trying to say to them. Omru, they said, Hanichulai, let him go. He wants to do his thing with her too. Hitiru prushanes hadavar. The rabbis have approved of this matter. If Pinchas is now himself wants to participate, then that means that we've won. You have the rabbis themselves who are agreeing to this. But when he got in, he took the point out of the spear, put it on, and speared them.
What you mentioned that Moshe forgot the Galacha. What is actually Galacha to tell to you have right to kill?
Excuse me? The halacha would be that if you are a kanoi, that means if you are somebody that is very zealous and very sensitive to the honor of Hashem, and you see this kind of act of desecration of Hashem's name, then you can kill those people involved in it right now. This is a halacha reserved for individuals who are truly sincere in what they feel about the honor of Hashem. Not something we can do today.
This is part of Hilul of Hashem.
This is part of Chilul Hashem. This is part of the desecration of Hashem's name. When this happens, and if you're there at the spot, if you're there at the time where this desecration is happening in its fullest, which means when the act is taking place, and you are a true zealot of Hashem, you have permission to kill those people. And Pinchas thought that Moshe should be doing this, but basically Moshe forgot this halacha. Hashem, I think it means that Hashem took it away from him, that he shouldn't remember.
I remember I read something. This is idea works if there is more than 10 people.
It's a separate. That's how separate discussion. That's a separate discussion. That's not this. That's something else. That's whether you have to give up your life.
My own life.
Yeah. This is something. This is actually people who are doing certain acts that are considered a grave desecration of Hashem's name. There are circumstances where a person could kill them. And those circumstances, Pinchas thought Moshe should be doing. Moshe didn't do it because it says he forgot the halacha, and Pinchas did it.
But now it doesn't work anymore.
No. Now, okay. So what we have here is, it's clear that, it's hard to know what was Zimri thinking. Like, what did he think he was doing when he took this Midianite woman? I mean, they said to him, people are dying, you got to do something about it. So he takes a Midianite woman and makes it very public that he's going to be doing the same act that all the men have been doing with the Moabite women. And he thought that's going to help them somehow. And even even as we see from the Gemara, when Pinchos came and they thought that he was one of them, right? They said, oh, look, the rabbis have permitted it, right? Clearly there was some kind of a plan here, which they thought if Pinchos was coming to participate in, Zimri's idea had worked, had convinced everyone. And if Zimri's idea of what he was doing convinced everyone, then that will stop anybody from being punished anymore. The question is, what was Zimri thinking exactly? That's the question. So I have a sefer here. It's called Ner Uziel. Rabbi Uziel Milevsky, Zechreinu Levracha. It was his classes on the Parsha put into a book, and he has an explanation. And I'm going to say, based on this explanation, I like to suggest an explanation.
But I believe there is many explanations.
There could be.
But this is one of them.
This is one of them. He had one way of doing it. I'm going to tweak it a little bit.
Okay.
Right. That's my like to try to do it. And I don't know, maybe it doesn't fit so well into the Gemara, but to me, it's like I'm trying to figure out. He says to Moshe Rabbeinu, right? If I can't cohabit with this woman, who allowed you to cohabit with your Midianite wife? He says, who let you do it? And again, it would seem that the answer should be obvious. One's before the Torah was given, one's after the Torah was given. And it's not like, as you said, it's not like necessarily, maybe there's some commentaries who say otherwise, but it's not like his question was, well, if I convert, if she'll convert, could I marry her? I mean, if she'll properly convert, you can marry her. But he wasn't converting her now, right? He took her and he cohabited with her. She didn't go through conversion, which means he had no plan, at least what he was about to do, to first convert her and then do what he was going to do. He was doing it anyway. And somehow or another, he was trying to argue with Moshe, if you live with a Midianite woman, why can't I? So I was thinking that perhaps what this means is that Zimri understands there's a difference between him and Moshe. But in Zimri's mind, Zimri maybe had this philosophy before, maybe he came up with it now because of the people trying to push him to do something. But his philosophy was, you can take, if you take anything and you do it to serve Hashem, it's good. If I can take this Midianite woman and unite with her, and my intention to unite with her is to bring her up, to elevate her, to bring her closer to God, that's okay. I can do that. Because when a man and a woman cohabit, they form a union, they come together as one. And if he says, if I'm doing that to bring her closer to God, to elevate her closer to God, if anything that you do, if you can take it and elevate it in the service of God, it's kosher.
It means he doesn't go down, but actually want to up.
He wants to raise everything up. Was it everything? Was it only this kind of action? I don't know. But he's trying to say here that what do you think I'm doing this? Right? He was a prince of the tribe of Shimon. He wasn't a lowlife. He was an important person. So he was trying to basically say, and by doing this, he was really trying to now somehow or another get all the men who are running after the Moabite women, right? To okay, we know what the source of the problem here is. Okay, so you know what we're going to do? Drop the idol worship stuff. That you got to drop, right? But you're kind of attached to them. Okay, well, Take what you're doing and elevate it in the service of God. Use the union, what you're having with these women, to elevate them to become closer to Hashem. And that'll kosher everything. That'll take care of everything.
But why he decided to make show from his?
Because he wanted to make a point. He
show
wanted to make
everybody?
a strong point.
Okay.
He wanted to make a strong point. To him, this was, again, and don't forget, he's trying to do something to save everyone, right?
Okay.
And in his mind, it's got to be public. He's got to do it. It's got to be very clear, very open. Okay? That's
positive intention. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
At least in some level, a positive intention. But he was wrong. And he was very wrong, because the halacha doesn't allow that. And therefore, what he did was, it was a desecration of Hashem's name, and therefore Pinchos went and took care of him. But the argument that he made about Moshe was, look what you did. You married a Midianite woman, right? She was not from the Jewish people. You married a Midianite woman, and you became Moshe Rabbeinu, right? So you could unite with a Midianite woman and elevate her. Why can't I do the same thing? That's what I'm trying to suggest was lying in his argument. And that was his plan. And the tribe of Shimon wanted to hear that plan very much. And when Pinchas seemed to be joining in, they said, hey, look, we're gaining traction. There are other people who are following this. Zimri's right. Zimri has a point. But that was Pinchas' way of getting in. And then he killed them. And when he killed them, the plague stopped. And according to the Talmud, he basically came out and showed everybody what he did. Both of them were still they were stuck on the spear, and he showed everybody what he did. So if you want to know, so it was his action that stopped the plague, and I think we could also suggest his action brought the Jewish people to do teshuvah, because they saw what he did. It was a very shocking thing what he did, and they saw what he did, and they saw that the plague stopped. And that was what I would say jolted them into doing tshuva, into repenting too. So this is perhaps what was going on at this point. Now, there's a very interesting idea that I've seen in a number of svarim that make a connection between what happened here and an episode of Chumash that happened way back. Now let's remember, Pinchas is from the tribe of Levi. Zimri is from the tribe of Shimon, right? If you remember, Shimon and Levi, the two brothers, they acted a lot together. When their sister Dinah was kidnapped and violated by Shechem, and Shechem wanted to marry her, so they made this plan, everybody should get circumcised, and everybody did, and while they were sick, who came and attacked and killed out the whole city? Shimon and Levi. And Yaakov was not happy with what they did. Before Yaakov died, he did not bless Shimon and Levi, but he rather put Shimon and Levi together and rebuked them for their anger, for their acting out of anger and fury. And when Yaakov dies, that's how it ends, with Shimon and Levi, in the sense that, when he dies, they don't get the same open blessing as the other ones do. Neither did Reuven. But Yaakov clearly was, it says, Arar apam ki kashasa, cursed be their anger because it's difficult. Yaakov felt, without getting into a discussion now what exactly was wrong, but Yaakov felt that they were out of line. They acted too much out of line, and therefore he cursed them. So Shimon and Levi, right, are already what Rabbi Milevsky calls them. I think Rabbi Milevsky called them that. Yeah, Rabbi Milevsky called them. This is the firebrand activists. You ever heard that term? Firebrand means fire. They're very active. They're activists. They're active, and they do it with a fire, with a lot of emotion. And that's what they did. Look, they were the two brothers who rescued Dinah. What's very interesting is that if you look back in Parshas Vayishlach, when this story takes place, and it says that Reuben and Shimon, went to attack the city. So this is in Bereshis, Parak Lamed, chapter 34, Pasuk Chafei, verse 25. On day 3 after the bris, and all the people of Shechem were in pain. The 2 sons of Yaakov, Shimon and Levi, brothers of Dinah, took each man his sword, and they came upon the city, and they killed out all the males. And they rescued their sister. So the commentary of Hamak Dover from the Netziv points out, like, why does the Torah have to say the 2 sons of Yaakov? 2 sons of Yaakov. It should just say, and the sons of Yaakov, Shimon and Levi. Why the 2 sons? Why have to mention the number 2? So he wants to suggest the number 2 means to say, though these 2 brothers acted together, they had the same plan, they did the same thing together, they were still shnei. There were 2. They weren't completely doing it together. There was something that, as much as on the outside it all looked like they're in tandem, they're in complete step together, they weren't exactly in the same step. Because one of them was acting out of the honor for his family. It was a desecration of Yaakov's family that his daughter was kidnapped and raped. The other one, that's Shimon. The other one, Levi, the wording of the Tziv is, the echad ba bedaskinas Hashem belishum pni averatzen hi eish shalavetzka. The other one is coming completely for the honor of Hashem without any kind of personal reason. There's nothing personal in Levi. Levi's doing it completely because Yaakov represents Hashem in the world. And when this is done to Yaakov's daughter, there's a desecration of God. And Levi's reaction here is nothing personal. It's all about the honor of Hashem. Nonetheless, even that kind of reaction, if it's not in proper check, it's not in proper check, in proper order, in proper control, it can be very dangerous. Now, he doesn't explain what exactly was wrong with what Levi did. But the point is that Shimon and Levi approached this from different in a different emotional state. They're both activists. They're both firebrand activists. They're both doing the same thing, but one is doing something personal and one is doing something completely for Hashem. So Rabbi Milevsky says this difference between Shimon and Levi manifested itself years later in their descendants. Pinchos acts out of the honor of Hashem. And what that means is that this kind of fire that existed in Levi, that at one point of time Yaakov said was out of control, Levi now brought it in control, completely in service of Hashem, completely the right way, and Pinchos now did what had to be done in the honor of Hashem. Zimri is the descendant of Shimon. And Zimri's actions, he may have thought are in service of Hashem, but it actually was. His tribe said to him, "Look, we're dying here. You got to do something." So he acted in order to take care of his people. There's something noble to that. But at the end of the day, because it was a continuation of that personal anger of his ancestor that was now continuing with him. That was the anger of Shimon that had not been refined properly and now manifested itself in Zimri. So and I've seen others who also make this connection between what happened with Shimon and Levi then and what happened now with Zimri and Pinchos. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful evening.